Hey all, KR King of D&D Homebrew here. Still, as you can hear, a little bit under the weather. And today is my kind of response to the whole OGL controversy with Wizards of the Coast that's been going on the past few weeks. I had not thought about doing this for a number of reasons. One of which is I think of my channel as system agnostic. I said this when I very first started it, that the concepts that I'm talking about with homebrewing a campaign, creating storylines, creating NPCs and whatnot, is applicable to whatever system you're using out there. But even something more specific, like when I covered backgrounds, using them for your players, whatever role-playing game you have, your players are going to have a background. They're going to come from somewhere, have some profession, some, route that got them to the point where they started in the game. So I always felt like that could always be applicable to any game. And when I covered, I have a whole Mad Mage series in which, from the very beginning, I said, hey, I don't really play modules, but I buy them. Way back when it was for the maps, but it's always been like to look at the key and look at how did they design this, look for trap ideas, look for scenarios in terms of, some temple or something or some cult or whatever it is that I can then take and apply in my own world. And I've had my issues, if you've watched my Mad Mage thing with, I'm certainly not some, apologist for it. Another thing is that I am not a legal expert. I've heard all sorts of things on various, YouTube videos about what it exactly means. And of course, when it first came out, there were tons of people that were like, oh my God, this is going to destroy everything. And then, things have gone back and forth. Wizards of the Coast, issuing this, whatever. The first one was a real doozy, right? Their supposed apology. We'll see where it all, winds up. But I felt as though some of these other channels, lawyers and whatnot, are people that are really, they're part of their whole thing is the industry insider, were better. But, as this time has gone on, a couple things have happened that made me think, my take on do not give Wizards of the Coast any of your money. Part of this was I had a longtime viewer who commented, and he said, hey, I'm sorry I haven't been commenting. I have not been looking at any channels. And he said, I am going to take my books and potentially throw them away. I am not playing any more role-playing games after this. This has made him so disgusted. And I was like, what? This guy loves D&D. His son he plays with it. This is crazy. So then I put a poll out in which I asked my viewers, hey, are you going to keep playing D&D, play another system, play an older version? And I put on there, quit the game, because this person said this. Well, only 1% say they were quitting the game. And in fact, this viewer came back and said, oh, I'm not, I'm going to play this or that. And he wasn't really quitting. But I noticed 50% of my viewers or so, or maybe it's up to 42, I don't know, are going to keep playing 5e. But they all in their comments said, I'm not going to buy anything from 5e. I've canceled my D&D Beyond, or, I'm not giving them anything. I mean, everybody, this whole community is outraged at the, the greed and, just the betrayal that they did with this leaked OGL. And the other thing is, having made this channel, I have become friends with all sorts of content creators who this controversy isn't just something to, rant and rave and say, oh, these greed heads. It's their lifeblood. I mean, this is how they make a living. And this was an existential threat to them. And so, it isn't just some news story. Now, again, we'll see how this plays out. Because one of the things about this, we've seen some high-profile Kobold Press or Matt Colville and other people say, hey, we're going to design our own systems. This will spur us on. Come along with us. You've seen this Open Resource Center by Paizo Orc, which is going to have this irrevocable, right? Notice that word, irrevocable open license, and all that's great. And I'm sure Matt Colville is going to come up with a great system, and Kobold Press, and I'll buy them. But the thing is that depending on the source books or sources you look at, D&D or 5e is like 80% of the market out there. And some people say it's 65. It's not very much. I think Call of Cthulhu is closest at 10%. Pathfinder is like 3 or something. I mean, you can look this up. There's a lot of systems out there with like less than 1% of the market share. So even though those new systems, if they do come to fruition, which is going to take a little bit of time, and people say, oh my God, embrace them. How many are going to embrace them? How big is that? And the reason I bring that up is not to knock them. Go for it. I'll buy them and, whatever. But here's the thing. Over the years, I've bought all sorts of, I got so many different role-playing systems that I've read and never played except myself. I've set the thing up and made characters and did this. Why? Because I couldn't find any players. I couldn't find anyone that wanted. They just want to play, 3.5 in those days, or 4 or 5e, or whatever. They want to play D&D. They don't want to play some new system. And you could maybe get it going for a little bit, or a one shot, or this or that. But really, it's difficult to get people to commit to a campaign style or a long-term, series of things with a system they're not familiar with. And to me, what that means is a lot of these third-party content people, maybe they're going to be creating for Matt Colville's system or Kobold Press or whoever. But the thing is, they're losing 80% of the potential market by doing that. And maybe it'll go down. Maybe they'll lose market share and they'll go. At one point, believe it or not, before 5e, Paizo had a bigger market share than Wizards of the Coast because 4e was not that successful. But now the market is so much bigger with things like, Critical Role and Stranger Things and whatnot. There's a much bigger base of people playing it. All they know is 5e, and they want to play 5e. And as I said, my players, most of them said that they wanted to continue with this. And so what I am saying is that you should not spend any money on any Wizards of the Coast, and if you want to extend it to Hasbro, any of their products. Don't buy any more books. Don't buy the new books. Don't get involved with 1D&D. Cancel your subscription to D&D Beyond. Until that point at which they make the OGL, maybe it's just the 5e, maybe it'll be one D&D, we'll see. They make that irrevocable as opposed to perpetual, because there is a legal distinction there. Currently it's perpetual, and by being perpetual, that just means it doesn't have a defined date. It just goes on and on and on until they announce that they are ending this, right? And that was the 1.2 thing. If you signed it, you were severing that, perpetual OGL 1.0. Are they going to do this? And is anyone going to trust them? I do not know. But until that time, I would say do not spend any money with them. The other thing that you can do is support your third-party content creators. Because as I said, even if all these other systems that are promised all come out, even if they're tremendous systems and they're just, they're fantastic and great, there's probably not going to be nearly the market share for them combined as there is with 5e, with Wizards of the Coast. I just think it's a fact. If I'm wrong, that would be great, which means those content creators need people that are still playing 5e and still interested in new classes, new items, new modules, new adventure settings, whatever. Continue to make those and buy those. So in that spirit, because I am a person, I buy modules to look at, the maps or look at the things, as I say. I don't do homebrewed classes very much, if at all, for this reason. When you start doing them, your players start going, well, wait a minute. You found this homebrew class. I found this on the internet. I found this on Unearthed Arcana. I found this. I found that. And I don't necessarily have the time to research that. I tend to just go, these are the books that I use for classes. These are the races, and I have not used, for instance, Tasha's races. I just am like, I don't know how to incorporate those yet. And players, it's like, okay, that's your world, right? But the minute you start allowing some new thing, to me, it can be problematic. But having said that, I have no objection to taking a homebrewed class, race, whatever, and including it in my world as either, not necessarily a one-off, but some area that this is in, or some, I love to have, dimensions, pocket dimensions, or little warps through which, the players come in. And when they go to this place, there should be some unique race or unique class of characters. It's just a matter of using them, in terms of the actual player characters. The other thing that I love are items and things like that, magic items that have been crafted, because those are a great one-off as well. Some special thing that you create, unique to your world, that you've taken from some third-party creator. Or, again, some module, some campaign setting idea, whatever. Those I can integrate into my homebrewed world. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be reaching out to some of the content creators I know, some that I don't know potentially, and say, hey, I want to look at, show me something you've got. I want to present it to my viewers. I'll do this, I don't know how often, monthly. I don't know yet. I'm just kind of flying by the seat of my pants, because my goal is to say to you, do not spend money on Wizards of the Coast, right? And so Jordan at Flutes Loot was kind enough to give me some links to some strategies in terms of if you're going to incorporate homebrewed material, how to evaluate that, how to make sure that it's not out of whack, that it isn't going to, mess up your game. And the idea here is to look at this stuff and, review it as it were. The other thing about reviews is I tell it like it is, and I hate to review something that I don't like, but we'll see. What I usually do is find out the things that I do like, unless I like everything about it. But that's what I'm going to be doing, and because it's not just not spending money, it's if you have in the past, take that money and go with a third-party content creator, because now they need it more than ever. They have gone through hell these last, 2 or 3 weeks, still very uncertain, still no guarantee of these other systems coming to the fruition or being, enough market share to enable them to do what they love to do and what they're really good at. So that you'll be waiting for that in coming weeks. I'm going to go back. I'm going to be doing some more stuff on Dungeon of the Mad Mage. I'm on level 5. And no, I'm trying that. You don't have to buy Dungeon of the Mad Mage. This is, I guess, if you already have it or get it in some manner. But I'm doing that because there are things in that dungeon, in terms of a mega dungeon, that I think are worthwhile the lessons. Maybe I'll give a little, caveat at the start of each video now that, hey, I'm not promoting Wizards of the Coast, but I am looking at this module. So until then, if you like my channel, please subscribe, leave some comments, tell me again. I've gotten a lot from my poll, but tell me what you think about third-party content, what's happening with Wizards of the Coast, what you think may happen. Keep playing D, whatever system you want, because here's the thing. I took some stuff from people, commenters going, hey, man, are you promoting, Wizards of the Coast? And this is what I said. I bought the books, I made the friends, and I'm going to play the game, any game I want, but I'm not going to give any money to Wizards of the Coast.